Hello and welcome to Honest Trailer Commentaries for The Shining. We're going to be talking about...
We're gonna get sued!
We're going to be talking about that film, the Honest Trailer we made for it, our thought process behind it. Stick around after for some cut jokes and a clue to next week's Honest Trailer. That's what this show is.
Yay!
All right, let's take The Shining down a peg. What a crappy movie that was. Woo! This is seriously one of my favorite films. Probably sniffing my top 5, if I'm being fully honest. But what do y'all think of The Shining? Fans?
It's a really good movie. Yeah, I'm a fan.
Okay.
But I'm also a fan of the book, which is not like this movie at all. But I love them both.
Do you miss the hedge monsters the most?
No, because they did that in the miniseries for TV on ABC, and they just weren't ready for prime time. Good cut. That was a good cut. I like the hedge maze.
Yeah, I don't know if they could have made that really work in 1980 the way that it should.
Yeah,
maybe
They're written
today.
very well. They're written very well.
It's a great sequence in the book,
Yes.
and I think today somebody clever could pull it off, but 1980 maybe not.
Not so much.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I like The Shining. As I think everyone knows, horror movies are not my thing, but no jump
Oh, you're
scares.
making some noises.
Yeah.
I was definitely making. I got in a couple of oh no, nopes.
Had you never seen this before?
No, I've seen it, but I react. I'm like a child, man, or like a goldfish. I react to everything like I've never seen it before. Anything past 30 seconds, Danielle don't remember.
Yeah, this movie does manage to kind of lull you back in under its spell. You know, it definitely scares me every time, puts me on edge every time I see it. Just because there's something like hypnotic, and we make fun of it because you got to make some jokes about how, let's say, deliberately paced it is.
Right.
But you're right there. You really do start to feel claustrophobic, like you're trapped in there with that family.
Yeah. No, as a Kubrick film, I love this movie. I think this is a great example of Kubrick, when you can, it's weird how he can bring this, he can make a movie set in space, which is like this limitless outer beyond of the infinity, and a movie set almost entirely inside of a hotel, and still give the same mystery to both of them. It just really just shows you how versatile he was as a filmmaker.
It's also, you use the word deliberate, which I think, he's making movies that are, they take their time, they're patient, they build atmosphere, but they're not boring. It's not slow or dull. Everything that's happening is interesting. The filmmaking and the technique, the performances, there's enough there to carry you along. Because I think 2001, Clockwork Orange, he's made a lot of films like that are like, they take their time. They're
Barry
not...
Lyndon.
Yeah, Barry Lyndon's early. Even Eyes Wide Shut. Like, they take their time. They're not like kinetic, hyper excitement, but it's never a slog. You're never bored.
Now, this film, though, a lot of the reviews when it came out did say it was boring and like what's happening, it's so unsatisfying, what an anticlimax. It's just interesting, I think, maybe the expectations surrounding this movie when it came out, and just being a horror film, what critics were expecting going in, it was not.
Yeah, we talked when we were into the writing. It didn't make the final draft, but Shelley Duvall and Stanley Kubrick were nominated for Razzie Awards. Stanley
First
Kubrick
year
was
for the
nominated for the
Razzies,
Razzies, was nominated for a Worst Director Razzie Award, and Shelley Duvall was nominated for Worst Actress, because this movie was very... this one and movies like Empire Strikes Back, which is much more polarizing when it came out, certainly more so than Star Wars. Like a lot of times,
It's like a Last Jedi of its time.
in a way, to some people, there's no internet, but
Just screaming into the void. I hate this!
over time, classics, especially when you look on Rotten Tomatoes, because people go back and review them.
They forced Lando in it! Oh, that's believable! Lando!
It makes it look like they were universally beloved, when in fact they were much more polarizing at the time they came out. And Shining was definitely one of those.
You can't fire lightning bolts out of your hand with
They
the
just
force.
invented a force power!
It's ridiculous.
Oh, if only the internet was there. Tweeting the Iran-Contra scandal. All right.
That's what you're looking forward to. I want to hear Twitter on Empire Strikes Back and Iran-Contra. That's it.
I mean, that's what Twitter is, though. It's Trump and The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
That's it. So that's exactly what it would be.
Let's quickly segue into watching the Honest Trailer for The Shining.
And cats. Both movie and animal. We demand it. I'm glad we got to do this movie, actually.
Yeah.
This was fun to do.
A challenge, but fun.
Based on a Stephen King novel, Stanley Kubrick threw in the trash comes
True.
an iconic piece of horror cinema.
Here's Johnny.
That was probably scary before it got parodied to death.
So many of these.
Yeah.
Perfect Strangers.
Spawn.
Dreamcatcher.
Rock was my life.
Johnny! Don't!
Pause the video. I think The Simpsons did the best parody by far.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
not really a contest.
I mean, overall, the Simpsons parody, it's so good that it really kind of like melds in with the actual movie in my mind sometimes. Like it's,
There are definitely times like when I'm watching The Shining that I imagine Mr. Allman being like, "Hey, tell you what, we come back and they're all slaughtered. I owe you a Coke."
Right.
You know,
Or even
No
when
TV, no beer, make
Right.
Homer go crazy.
And when we were talking about
Something.
the elevator scene, I actually pitched before remembering that it's what Mr. Burns says. Like, oh, that's odd. The blood usually gets off of the third floor.
it is a guy. Yeah, I like The
It
Shining.
doesn't help that I saw that one first because I was too young to have seen The Shining.
you go.
Also gave rise to one of the most useful everyday Simpsons quotes: "Urge to kill, rising,
Rising, falling,
fading, rising."
Okay, all right, let's keep going. So good.
Sit back, way back, for 2.5 hours of Kubrick's signature style. That's either a masterclass in building tension
Yes,
or kinda boring.
10%.
You could have
In a film that's largely made at
just that
the
Roadrunner
same
scene.
Yeah.
3 shots, characters staring at the camera.
Call Kevin on the music stuff here.
Yeah.
Characters pulling a crazy face.
I mean, he's got the best crazy face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good crazy face.
Characters wandering.
There's a lot of wandering.
Yeah.
God, that set though. It was a set, by the way.
Yeah, there was right.
Pause. Sorry. Boring behind the scenes info about The Shining though, but they built that on a soundstage, and the set was apparently incredibly hot because they had to blast so much light through those big windows so that you
to
couldn't
make it
see
seem-
outside.
Yeah.
That it was just like
I didn't know that.
very, very warm.
I knew
very
they
warm
built a set, and like we'll get into some of the fan theories and stuff like that in Room 237, and people are like, the hotel is impossible. Like you walk around rooms and there's a window where it should be. It's like a lot of this movie was intentional, and there are things I think he's seeding in there. But the fact that the layout doesn't make sense is because it's a set.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
a real hotel.
It's not-
so
no,
the fact
the
that
exterior
that hallway
and the-
doesn't lead anywhere.
the
Like
exterior
it leads
and the
to
interior,
a studio backlot.
The exterior is a real place called the Stanley Hotel that's still there.
Well, the Stanley
There's
Hotel
a
is the
couple-
real one.
Oh, that's
and
the one that
Stanley
inspired
Hotel's
it.
the one they used for the TV show, but
Right.
what I remember more succinctly as the movie where Harry and Lloyd stayed in Dumb and Dumber.
Is it the same
The hotel in Dumb and Dumber where Harry and Lloyd stay is the Stanley Hotel, which
In
was the
Aspen?
actual real haunted hotel that Stephen King stayed
Right.
in that inspired The Shining.
Is it really in Aspen where the beer flows like wine?
It's in Colorado. I don't know if it's
Yeah, I don't know if it's an ass.
Probably Breckenridge.
But
Most of what you
I
think
forget
of
where
as
that-
Aspen is Breckenridge.
I forget where the one from the movie is.
Yeah, the actual exterior they
Actual,
used.
yeah,
I don't
but I
remember.
I think it's Portland or like Pacific Northwest somewhere.
I think it
Maybe.
might be. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, the idea that like they that office is impossible given that hallway is because it was all built on a soundstage.
Yeah, I mean, in Route 237, they get real caught up in like Danny riding his tricycle. Like some of that stuff should be on different floors. Like he shouldn't be able to do that. Maybe Kubrick put that in there on purpose, like the impossible physics your mind would. But it's also possible there was just like, well,
Maybe it's a movie.
yeah, you couldn't do that because the set was all one floor.
Right, not a real hotel.
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
But hey, everything feels creepy when you put that score under it. Oh, it's just you.
The only jump scare in the movie.
An empty hotel on top of an Indian burial ground with a long history of murder. So, like a nice Motel 6.
Cozy.
And Seth, the winter caretaker, Jack Nicholtorrens, who in the book is a loving family man who slowly goes mad over the course of the season as the dark secrets of the Overlook are revealed.
Pause.
Yeah.
I saw a little pushback on that, saying like that's not an accurate depiction of his character in the book, because they're like they talk about in the first whatever pages that he broke his son's arm, and it's like yeah, but like the point being in the book he did do that stuff, but like he is in recovery, he very desperately wants to be a family man, he is very loving and caring toward his family, he has flashes of that temper, but the whole story is about him being corrupted over a very long course of many, many months as he's in the basement going under these over these books and about the hotel influencing him, or is it? Or is he just a hopeless alcoholic who's bound to relapse?
Jack Torrance is a monster from the start.
Right, but in this movie, he doesn't really show much warmth ever toward his family. And
we never get to know him apart. I mean, when the movie opens, he's already there. Like he's the Overlook has taken over his mind essentially from the very beginning.
He's reading a Playgirl in the lobby.
Yep.
Yeah. He's just mad dogging his family.
Yeah, I mean it's clear that Kubrick did do that intentionally. He didn't want you to get to see any other version of Jack Torrance other than this one, and it is very different. It's a descent into madness.
So I push back on the pushback, and I will say that at the beginning of the book, The Shining, Jack Torrance is a man with demons, certainly demons, but who legitimately and genuinely wants to reform and be a family man, and is trying very hard. And just that's the tragedy of the book, is that you watch this man just self-destruct and collapse on himself.
And it's a very familiar Stephen King theme about a person battling their personal demons, and am I defined by these horrible urges, or am I, can I overcome them?
No, Movie Jack has always been part of the Overlook.
Right. Yeah. Yes, it's very
right
built
off the
in.
bat, he's like, I feel like I've always been here. I'm a part of this place. So
right, and he's already kind of over his family, even as they're driving to the hotel. In the beginning.
I always forget the scene where he's just like, when you hear this. Like that's early in the movie. Like that's like Act 3 Jack from the book. That's like early Act 2. He's like, "Don't interrupt me, Wendy." It's like he's long gone by that point.
Man in my position. Yeah.
He doesn't do any actual caretaking. Which I think
she's doing all of the work.
Again, is intentional. I think that he is making such a big deal of his own importance when she's doing his job.
And he's waking up at 11, and then they really lay that stuff in.
Again, and again in the book, like that role, he is critically if he doesn't do his job, the hotel will literally explode.
Right.
And so that's the whole thing. Like they can't leave, and their argument when she tells him to leave, it's just like, oh, so you want me to just leave? And this place explodes. It burns down because they have to empty the boilers. Like, is that what you want? And I mean, it's like it's much more. It's a lot deeper.
Yeah.
The movie and the book are two different animals.
Well,
and they're both effective.
Well, we can talk about it later, but I think there is a deeper point being made in the movie than the kind of not typical, but like the reverse hero's journey going on in the book of like, oh, he's a good man being corrupted. In this one, I think this is a very symbolic movie, and what it's symbolic of is up for debate.
Could be
a movie based on the book, but I would say it's not representative of it.
It's like inspired by the
inspired.
book.
Let's continue.
Except in this movie, he never really liked his family.
I'm hungry.
I mean, we don't know how long they've been in the car at that point.
It's only a few hours drive.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It was crazy in the course of about a week.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
And the dark secrets
That was the
of
pause for 1 second.
Overlook
That film, I think, set the record for like a shot with dialogue. The number of takes that they've taken. It was in the hundreds.
Wow.
Up and down those stairs.
Up and down those stairs. Yeah. Like trying to actually drive them insane.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Give me the bat.
And same with like some of the shots with Scatman Crothers with him and Danny. Like Kubrick.
Yeah.
That was borderline, if not abuse. But the part of this, he was trying to psychologically break down his
It was
actors?
certainly psychological abuse. I
Yeah.
don't think there's any question about it, particularly Shelley Duvall and Scatman Crothers. Like, he broke them down mentally to get them where they needed to be. And I think there's a whole discussion to be had about whether that should be a valid strategy or why it's not.
That was an idea that had kind of weaved itself through Hollywood history. Hitchcock also, there's a lot of stories using similar tactics. And I think we're definitely in a different time now where that is, not that it's a defense of Hitchcock or Kubrick, but now definitely that sort of behavior.
Just hire your actors to act. You don't have to actually do horrible things to them. Just get them to act.
I think now we've come along to this idea that, well, the director's job is to sort of help the actors do their job and not to try to like trick or manipulate them into getting the best performance.
Now, what do you make of like a Leo chowing down on bison liver because he like hates himself?
But I mean, that's all Leah. Like, Inarritu was not like, listen, you get out there and you eat that bison. I know we
get in that horse.
I know we didn't talk about this until just this moment, but now I insist.
Eat it again.
Yeah.
Eat it again.
Yeah.
Eat it again.
I think that was all Leo.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep going.
Killed his family with an axe.
Oh.
But Jack is right, damn it. And he'll take all the dark paranormal energy he can get if it lets him procrastinate on his novel even more. I could finish this chapter, or I could kill my whole family. Then I'll write 2 chapters. Honest, I swear.
Jack.
I feel attacked.
Shelley Duvall's Wendy, a woman living in growing fear of her abuser, Stanley Kubrick.
I don't sympathize with Shelley.
Pause.
That's a great documentary.
Yeah, great documentary. The Making of The Shining. It's on, I don't know, not to endorse, because I don't know if you can actually buy it, but just Google it. It's on the internet.
It's also available as supplementary features in various releases.
It's on a lot of different Blu-rays.
Watch it officially. Google it so that you may click the link to purchase below. But it was made by Kubrick's daughter, and it's just her wandering around the set of The Shining, like filming Jack as he's getting into character and just like being a movie star.
That's a very famous clip of Nicholson, and he's holding the axe, like getting ready to do the big scene, and like jumping around trying to psych himself up.
Yeah.
It's fascinating if you're a Shining fan.
Shelley Duvall, I think, talks about like her hair started coming out.
Yeah. Well, she's in it. She's like, look, my hair's falling out.
Her hair is coming out. She was put through the ringer.
And Stanley's like, oh, okay. Like
it's a months-long shoot, and she's just under constant pressure.
He's rolling his eyes at her, saying that my hair's falling out. But yeah, that he wanted to literally isolate her so that she felt isolated.
Man, you go through all of that, your hair falls out, and then you get nominated for a Razzie.
For worst actress. Oh boy,
It's pretty bad.
Anyways,
but then you make nursery rhyme adaptations for a whole generation of children.
Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall.
There you go.
That's where I first introduced.
Yeah, that's a whole generation met Shelley Duvall that way.
You guys are old. All right, keep going.
You're not that much younger.
Fancy CGI to pull a Gollum.
And he's not here, Mrs. Torrance.
And Dick
He never acted again. Must have had a lot of fun.
A psychic talent that's kind of useless if he couldn't see this coming.
The scream beforehand.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's not particularly fast.
No.
That's like dying twice. Experience this complex and baffling masterpiece that could be an allegory for anything. The treatment of Native Americans, alcoholism, fate versus free will, alienation, writer's block, Theseus and the Minotaur, the Illuminati, It's All a Dream, Kubrick's confession for faking the moon landing, MK Ultra, They're in Hell and Jack is the Devil, the Holocaust, the patriarchy, the destruction of Kubrick's old neighborhood, a warning about staying in the bath too long, or the importance of regular snowcat maintenance. There we go, that's the one. We cracked the code, you guys. We can stop overthinking it. Check your snowcat.
We'll talk about the theories later.
Yeah. Of today. No big shock moments, no elaborate backstories or explanations, and no unstoppable monsters. Just a sad dad who's killed by the wrong choice of jacket. Imagine this.
Yeah, if he took Scatman's jacket, he would have made it out.
Minor key version of Let It Snow.
Pause.
Jump scare.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, come on, Lon, you paused too soon.
Sorry. Let's do the jump scare.
Yeah. All right, pause. I was in the lab with Kevin, our editor, trying to get him to make the jump scare cheesier and worse because his instincts were good and were to make something like cinematic and with some building tension. But I was like, no. Pretend you're a can of Mountain Dew, like do the earthquake effect and make it turn red, and do like pretend you're making like the follow-up to The Nun versus La Llorona. Make that trailer jump scare.
Yeah, this I think this would have been perhaps in a different time marketed a certain way and viewed much like a movie like Hereditary or It Comes at Night, where it's marketed as a mainstream horror film, and then people go see it and they're like, this is boring.
Yeah, no, I think I said in my notes today, I feel like if this came out today, this would be one of those, like, it got a 97 from critics, but a 43 from the audience?
Yeah, this is definitely an A24
definitely
flick.
Yeah,
A24.
It's like, this is getting a D+ cinema score, you guys.
It could probably be done, like, minus the movie star, it could be done for a low budget, like, probably on Amazon Prime.
Netflix over Christmas.
Yeah, this would be like a
Did everybody
Hulu.
everybody watch The Shining over that 3-day weekend?
A Hulu original.
Yeah.
It's on like the BBC iPlayer. I can't watch it, but maybe it'll come to Netflix soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even then, it like I said, it confounded critics when it came out. So expectations were all over the place.
Yeah.
Kubrick movies tend to be like that. I mean, even Eyes Wide Shut, the most recent one after his legendary icon status was permanently cemented, even that got mixed reviews when it opened. And it was only years later that people went back and sort of all agreed that it's pretty good.
We should do that on Australia. That'd be fun.
Let's do it.
I mean, The Shining is a movie that it came out in 1980. I was born in 83, and I think in my conscious lifetime, The Shining is a movie that I don't think was canonized, but has now become canonized. Like, for a long time, it was remembered as like, here's Johnny, and as like a really good horror movie. Yeah. But I think really in the last 20 or so years is when it's like actually become like not just a popular movie and you've got it on your wall or whatever, but like it's become canonized and you see it more and more regarded as like, I think it is the best horror movie ever.
Yes. Yeah, and it's the rise of armchair film analysis, which we've made careers off of people just being like, well, actually, The Shining is about blood. And like, did you know Star Wars is about genocide? Like, whatever.
It's definitely a take-friendly,
it's a take generator.
Take culture definitely benefits from movies like The Shining.
The Overlook runs on takes.
Yeah. That's what they keep putting in the boiler. It's takes.
Yeah. All right, let's finish this up. Actually, pause 1 second. Go back to, if we can go back to the Shining coming soon. If this were a modern horror movie, it would have like www.theshiningmovie2019.com #Jack's back.
Hashtag shine on.
At here's Johnny.
At here's Johnny.
Yeah. And like it would just be like an ad for the Overlook Hotel, and you'd have to click in. It's like, oh, is there a ghost in that mirror?
Yes.
The emoji's an axe.
Yeah, it would definitely have an axe.
An axe emoji comes out.
Oh, anyways. All right, keep going. Sorry.
My wife into pieces. This is a ghost resort.
So props to Lon for that one.
Thank
People
you.
seem to really like it.
I love Sir, This Is a Wendy.
Blood in an elevator. Hotel, motel, homicide.
I like that one too.
The Grady Bunch, the Grady Bunch.
I like the cut in the middle.
Yep. It's not all about sex, guys.
Too long, or you'll wrinkle up. So I married an axe murderer.
I like that's very honest.
Yeah. They changed so much from the book. They really should have just let Stephen King have complete control.
If you want something done right, you ought to do it yourself.
Masterpiece.
Stephen King looks like in the 80s. Who was the a-hole in Die Hard that tries to negotiate?
Ellis?
Yeah. He looks like Ellis in Die
Johnny.
Hard.
Harry Ellis.
Got hit in the head with a shovel.
I'm your white knight.
Your white knight.
I only know him as the guy from Supergirl. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, he is.
He's the love interest in Supergirl.
Yes, he is.
Ellis from Die Hard?
Yes. He plays like a dopey construction worker.
Okay. Wow. I have CW. Get it.
No, the movie.
The movie.
Yeah, 1980s
Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Weird choice.
Helen Slater era, not
The Faye Dunaway Helen Slater.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Like, she's like a construction worker she saves, and then
He's like 70 now.
Yeah. I should be watching that, I guess. Wow.
Boy. Yeah, no.
Where character happens. Is that CW?
No, that's where character. Is that
USA?
USA.
Characters Welcome is on USA.
CW was just ads. All right. Let's hop into some deleted scenes.
Yes.
Starring Mr. Freeze, the dearly departed, a total axhole, Batgirl,
Help, Popeye, help!
Shell Shocked, Shelley Duvall's Dread Time Stories, Psy Kids, The Maze Runner,
I like that one.
Yeah, I like Maze Runner.
Resting Witch Face, Fingers Home to Imaginary Friends, I'm the Scat Man, Snow Patrol, and Queen.
How did we not use it with actual twins?
They'll make its way in someday.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Blood. Crimson.
Oh, that's my Garth Marenghi Dark Place reference.
Blood.
And bits of sick.
Shine on, you crazy demon.
Pink Floyd reference.
That Ready Player One scene.
Oh God.
Also true.
Yeah.
You know what's really scary? How hard it was to find porn in the 70s. You had to put it up on your bedroom wall, up in the corner of a car rental place, or read straight copies of Playgirl. Desperate time.
Yeah.
Oh wait, was that
Playgirl?
Yes, Playgirl.
Yeah.
It is Playgirl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Jeez.
I noticed that while I was like, is that a Playgirl?
I only read it for the articles.
Well, speaking of which, one of the articles on that cover is about family sexual abuse, which gives credence to the theory that he sexually abused Danny because he's lying on this big teddy bear and he changed it from a dog to a bear in the BJ scene. And then it's like, oh, what's going on? Which brings us to our fan questions.
Yeah, your room 237.
Yeah, Jason Georgis writes, which ludicrous room 237 interpretation of The Shining is your favorite? Ooh. I mean, for sheer ludicrosity, it's got to be the moon landing.
Yeah,
one.
that's what I'm
The moon landing one is my favorite.
Just because the idea of Stanley Kubrick being the one who faked the moon landing is itself so silly and elaborate. Like, if you're going to fake the moon landing, you don't need the greatest director. Like, it shouldn't be the greatest filmmaker. You would want a guy like directs TV, like make it more realistic.
Well, and also
I disagree with that. I mean, it's unrealistic for a billion reasons, but you would get the guy who did 2001, who made, he can do the job.
Yeah, but then it's going to look like, you don't want it to look like a space movie. The
2001 looks
real. The TV broadcast moon landing doesn't look like 2001. It looks like TV footage.
Right. Yeah.
I also love the idea that he would be apologizing publicly for this monstrosity of a cover-up that, if it were to become public, would color the public's perception of the government, of everything for life, and that he would be so unsubtle as to actually put an Apollo 11 rocket on Danny's sweater. That's a little on the nose.
Dear Mr. Policeman, I left you all the clues.
Kubrick is a little more subtle than that, I think.
Yeah, that's my
favorite
that
one.
That one's pretty silly. I think also, like, the idea that it's, I mean, look, you can read this as Theseus in the Minotaur because he's chasing somebody around a maze at the end, but they look at that poster, that skiing poster up in one shot in the room, and like if you squint, it looks like a bull. Yeah. So it's like, oh, it's the Minotaur.
There you go.
There it is. There's your proof.
Done.
Solved.
Weird side fact, I actually recreated that in college, the Theseus and the Minotaur, for this thing that it was a project about how Greek myth and chorus turned into eventually theater and plays and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So I recreated. Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
I sucked. I'm sorry.
It's
I
a
keep
student
going back
film.
to
You get it out of your system. You've done it. It's fine. I actually think that the Native American colonial interpretation is probably what he was seeding in there. I think with the amount of American flags, that it's built on top of a Native American resting place, that it's July 4th in that final photo at the end.
Yeah, the overlook itself has all sorts of tapestries, native designs, and
the fact that he's out of nowhere, he starts talking about the white man's burden, and he's at the bar. I think that's probably what he thought was interesting.
Well, I think there is. It's purposefully vague. It's purposefully ambiguous. There's purposefully a lot of different ideas going on because I think he wanted you to read in whatever you wanted to into it. I think it's about all of these things.
Yeah.
It is a pretty easy movie to project whatever your own stuff is upon it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there you go. Let's see. What else we got here? Rebecca B. Was that Joe singing? Asked, was that Joe singing Let It Snow? No, that was John. John's a man of many voices, including minor key versions of Christmas carols. We'll have him do more. Let's see. Brandon Vasquez writes, who came up with that Aerosmith joke? It was pretty funny. Dan?
That one was me.
Yeah, Blood in an Elevator. Yeah. You saw our alternates that didn't make the cut.
It's not that. I mean, to neg myself a little bit here. It's literally just describing what I saw on the screen.
But to the tune of a popular Aerosmith song.
One word did change.
That's comedy. And then X writes X.
He's gonna give it to us.
How do we? He gonna give it to us. How do we not discuss the single biggest mystery of the plot? Who the hell let Jack out of the freezer? If ghosts can physically move things, why didn't the ghost keep Wendy and Danny inside the hotel?
The ghost.
Well, it's not a.
Well, the ghost let him out.
The ghost let him out. The ghost let him out.
I guess maybe the mystery. I'll restate it in a different way. Why did the ghosts choose Why did they do that when they had the motive and the opportunity to kill them a million other different times and ways?
I'll besides the fact that it's a movie and that's just how the movie went. That's the real answer.
Sure.
But no, if we want to go canonically, well, at least according to the book, which Stanley Kubrick scrapped most of, but the book explanation would be that the ghosts at the Overlook act through Jack. So he's very much a manifestation of all of that evil. They're able to sway him because he's already in a very sensitive frame of mind, but they realize that Danny's power makes them much more powerful, which is really their motivation in the book again, and in the movie it's left a little not quite as stated, but their real motivation is for Jack to kill Danny so that he becomes part of the hotel and thus makes them infinitely more powerful because he has this special power, the Shining, so that they would then be able to, they were very kind of weak as far as power goes. They were echoes, but they realized that when Danny was there, they became much stronger. So the explanation would be that Grady can do things like open a freezer door because they're growing in power, but they did not yet possess the power to affect change on that kind of, like, they couldn't, a ghost couldn't just kill somebody, a corporeal person. They had to go through Jack in order to do that.
I think another read is that the hotel's really not interested in the consequences of what happens. I mean, it's a hotel. They're all dead. There's spirits sort of occupying this other realm. It's just corrupting Jack. That it's an evil place. If there's a sinister vibe, they want to corrupt people who are susceptible to it, who come in there. And so, they're just driving him crazy, making him kill his family, and that they have no real interest in, like, oh, we got to keep Wendy here. It's just, how can we play on this guy and make him crazy until he dies and he becomes absorbed in with the rest of us.
Alternate theory, Danny did it. Hear me out. You see Danny making his shining face either right before or right after the door opens. He has been abused by his father. He has the motive and the opportunity. He doesn't want to see them ride out the winter with him in the freezer and then escape to safety where he could be hurt again. He wants him dead. He knows Scatman's on the way and he is trying to get Scatman to kill his dad. So he lets him out, thinking that the confrontation will go differently, that it won't go the way it goes.
Because why would this powerful psychic allow himself to be murdered that way?
Yeah, exactly. He would surely see a man with an axe coming.
He was like walking a little slower.
Guys, he was behind a pillar.
And he yelled really loud.
Yeah.
So there you go. I think Danny did it, trying to get his dad killed by Scatman because he knew he was coming to mop things up. That's my explanation.
Also possible.
Is there anything else? Nope. That's it. All right. That's The Shining. I hope you enjoyed our little chat. I hope you'll tune in next week, where we have a similar delusion over what's real and what isn't. Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
All right. Yeah.
It's been a run of those, huh?
Yeah. Thanks again. We'll see you next time right here on Honest Trailer Commentaries. Bye-bye.